Well, hello, good afternoon. It's great to be here. It's a real pleasure and an honor to gather with you all here in person. Very exciting, yes? And before I go on and too deep into this, I do want to stop and acknowledge the land that we're gathered on today. We are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And of course, this community, this land, remains home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And today, as we sit among each other after more than 600 days, I think, probably, since we did that last, let's renew our commitment to honoring those treaties, shall we? I want us to talk today about a lot of important things. I've been listening in on the meetings with many of you over the last few hours, and I'm looking forward to revisiting some of those issues in the years ahead. I want to start also by thanking J.N. Jagannathan for that wonderful introduction, and I would also like to thank the organizers, volunteers, and the staff whose hard work has made it possible for us to meet today, to share ideas and make new connections. And I also, a special shout out to the Sheraton Center staff here. They're Unite Here Local 75 members. Thank you so much for all you do. I want to tell you that this is one of the first major events that I'm attending as the incoming leader of Ontario's official opposition NDP. And it is truly an honor because the work that you do, the sheer resilience in the face of the various challenges that we've all been through the past 3 years, well, we all know too well that being a municipal leader, a councillor, isn't easy in the best of times, and every one of us here today has one thing in common, and that is our love for this province and the communities that make it home. Now, I'm going to tell you, you probably can't tell it from my accent or lack of accent, but I was born and raised in Newfoundland. I started out in a small community in Conception Bay South called Long Pond. My family had a small farm, and they taught, and my dad worked with fishing communities and in conservation. And when I was growing up in Newfoundland, the cod fishery was faltering. Locals knew it. They saw it coming. Times were really, really tough, but people hung on, and they got creative, because that's our way of life. And I know many of you here will understand those values and that resilience. But like so many people of my generation, I moved to Ontario. And I moved here first to go to school, and then I fell in love with all that this province has to offer. And 30 years on, I'm still here. And I'm proud to call this province my home, along with my partner and my 2 beautiful daughters, and my dogs too, but they're a little bit ridiculous. You'll learn more about those over the years. Ontario offered me opportunities like it has for so many others, countless generations of people from all over our country and all around the world. And it offered me and my partner the ability to raise a family on a working class salary, great public schools, excellent public health care. That's why we came here, for that promise. And these are the foundations of a strong province, of strong communities. But that foundation feels right now more shaky than ever before, I think. It's getting harder, and you all know this, to stretch a paycheck to cover the basics like gas and groceries, while every single day we're all reading about grocery chains pulling in record profits. Housing, a fundamental human right, has become out of reach for too many, while a few connected people are making millions on land speculation. Local emergency rooms closed on weekends because there aren't enough staff to keep them open. None of this is normal, but we're increasingly being told that it is. And you know, I really believe that that is what fed the kind of cynicism about politics that resulted in the lowest voter turnout we've had in this province in the last provincial election. And it is a major factor in why I decided to run for the leadership of the official opposition. Because I see it as my job, as that incoming leader, to raise people's expectations about what's possible. It's, again, a big reason why I ran for this job, and it's why I'm now running to be the next premier of this province. And I know that I don't have to tell you what people are going through. And I've been listening to you, every delegation talking with us about homelessness, the housing crisis in your communities. You know, I came and I live in Toronto here, right? And homelessness and housing and the housing affordability crisis has been very real here for very long. But this is a crisis that people all across our province in every corner are experiencing now. And municipalities, you are the closest form of government for most people. As municipal leaders, you know what's happening day to day, what's concerning your neighbors, and what's holding your communities back from reaching their full potential. But it really boggles my mind that despite all of this, that this government would attack the rights of our critical local governments. That relationship, that trust between the provincial government and municipalities has been broken. You're all very polite about it, but I know. And I know that the government is going to tell it differently. But this is a government that has made it clear since coming to power that they're not interested in hearing from municipalities or in collaborating in a real way. And with Bill 23, the Premier and his government showed that they will act unilaterally, that they will propose major changes without any consultation with municipalities, and that they will create chaos by exposing rural municipalities and taxpayers to new costs without any provincial funding to fill the financial gap. Yes. And we notice that time and time again, Doug Ford has disregarded AMO's Memorandum of Understanding, its principle of prior consultation with Ontario's municipalities. And you know, if anybody disagrees with this government's plans on housing, on development, on the environment, they have shown again and again that they're ready and willing to legislate away your powers, even changing the democratic structures of your councils based on to-be-determined provincial priorities. And they say it's about housing, but it's not. It is not about housing. And I want to say, and I want to thank you all again, because every single delegation that has appeared before us today has come forward with strategies and plans to build the affordable housing, the truly affordable housing that we really need. And what we need next is we need the government to step forward to get it done in partnership, and you can count on us in the official opposition to push for that. Thank you. Because, you know, we know we need homes. We need about 1.5 million of them over the next decade. But we need them within existing municipal boundaries, based on your local planning expertise, not based on what's going to get the biggest profit in the hands of a few developers. And what we don't need is more urban sprawl on farmland that's supposed to feed future generations. Or to take a bulldozer to our precious greenbelt. Mr. Ford has ignored all warnings from AMO that this legislation will be disastrous for your municipalities and for the province, that it will be disastrous for the environment, and that it will threaten Ontario's food security and diminish municipal revenues, and we all know who's going to end up paying for that. Because it's the money that I know you depend on to build our roads, our sewers, public transit, parks, libraries, and that instead these changes are going to transfer up to $1 billion a year in costs from private sector developers to property taxpayers and do nothing, and I truly believe this, nothing to address housing unaffordability. This government even voted against my colleague John Vantoff's Bill 27, the Protecting Agricultural Land Act, which would have required an agricultural impact assessment before farmland is rezoned for development. And I want to thank John for bringing that legislation forward. Thank you. But there has been some progress in this fight. And I want to tell you, we're not giving up. Last week, the province's Auditor General agreed to our request to open an investigation into what Bill 23 will really cost the people of Ontario, along with its financial and environmental implications. Yeah. And on the same day, the Integrity Commissioner also agreed, responded to my request to investigate the decision-making process around the Greenbelt carve-up. Because you know what? Ontarians deserve to know the truth. And I really hope they will get it. Because Bill 23 really is just a small peek into this government's disregard for the very unique needs of rural municipalities in Ontarians. And I can tell you, people in this province, they believe something smells fishy. And they want the Auditor General and the Integrity Commissioner to at least shine a light in some of those dark corners so we can see what happened. And I know you've been feeling fiscally squeezed for a very long time. This isn't happening overnight. And that downloading and unfunded mandates hit you the hardest. I know that northern and rural municipalities were facing funding shortfalls before the pandemic, and since then it has only gotten worse. And I also know the kind of support you have been expecting from this government has been disappointing. Crucial revenues, like the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, cut or frozen for years, including in this last year's budget. To see how Mr. Ford and the Conservatives are willing to go back on their promises, you just have to look at the very slow rollout of broadband expansion in rural Ontario, yes? And I know the announcements are there, but the devil is in the details. Is it going to work? I don't know. I hope so. I really, really do, because this is essential. This is essential in this day and age when so much of our work and our life takes place online. Broadband is more critical than ever, and I promise you, as a new leader of Ontario's official opposition NDP, I'm going to take this fight to Queen's Park and ask the government why they have failed to again put all their money where their promises are. We need to speed this up again and again and again. Now, if there's one thing that I've been learning as I'm traveling around the province, and I've been doing a lot of that, obviously, I had the advantage of being able to do that a lot and connecting with many of you when I was the education critic over the last 4 years. But certainly over the last few months, traveling to all corners of this province, and I really have a sense that people are looking for a new kind of leadership. And as the official opposition, I believe we have the responsibility to hold the government to account, yes, to point out when they're doing something harmful, and to fight back when they go too far. You've heard me list off plenty of what they're doing wrong. But I also believe that we as the official opposition have a responsibility to prevent a strong, clear, alternative way forward to show how things could be done better. Yeah, and like a plan to actually build that truly affordable housing. You have written the plan. You have the strategies. A plan to create good jobs and more opportunities and grow our workforce. Because people are counting on us. Young families, young people, newcomers, working too hard to get anything less than the very best that this province has to offer. As the next leader of the Ontario NDP, I will work with you to build that positive alternative to the way things are today. And it starts, I want to say, by respecting municipal partners and actually listening to them. Yeah. It really shouldn't be so hard. It really shouldn't be so hard. I shouldn't even have to say it. Of course. Instead of cutting municipal funding, revenues, and downloading those costs to the taxpayer, I'm going to fight to make sure that northern and rural municipalities get sustainable funding for priorities like housing, like childcare, like mental health and addictions, like long-term care and infrastructure and transit, those foundational elements that build strong and caring communities all across our province. And I believe that all of us, we're all here because we share a common vision of a stronger and healthier Ontario, whatever your political stripe. We all want to see an Ontario where the future is something to look forward to rather than to fear. And that vision and dream of an Ontario that works for everyone is possible. It's why I came to this province in the first place. But it only happens if we work together, instead of offloading the costs and the responsibilities, and I know we can do it. So I want to end by saying that as I take on this new role, my door is open. I want to hear your ideas to strengthen Ontario's northern and rural communities. As I said, I intend over the next 3.5 years to offer a very clear and smart alternative to the approach of Mr. Ford. But I'll always be willing to work together with anyone to get things done for people. And I don't promise to have all the answers, but I do promise that I have a strong team. Ontario has one of the strongest official opposition caucuses in history. They are a team full of leaders that represent every corner of this province, and I'm so proud to stand with them. Thank you so much for being here. I know you've all met with them today. The dream that you share for communities is the dream that I share. And it's the dream of our entire NDP caucus, and it's one that we're fighting for every single day. Together, I know we can win more for people right across this province, and I can't really wait to get to work doing it. The work you're doing, I gotta say, and the conversations we've been having these last few days gives me so much hope. Thank you so much. Miigwech. Merci.